I want an officer to look me in my face and feel my pain. I want the officer to know, what if I was Laquan and you shot me 16 times? What if you had a son and they shot him 16 times? Won't you want some justice? You would take that badge off, you would take that uniform off, and you would come on our side and you would face these issues.
Well, that was an emotional protester speaking to our own Mike Tobin tonight in Chicago. He's the same protester you saw last night staring down a police officer on this program. As you can see, tensions are running high on a second night of demonstrations happening there after police released a video showing a black teenager being shot to death by a white police officer. President Obama has now weighed in on this, posting on Facebook that he's deeply disturbed by the footage of the fatal shooting, but is grateful to the people of his hometown for keeping protests peaceful. But we begin with Mike Tobin in Chicago. Mike.
Hi, Sandra. The demonstrators are certainly covering some ground tonight. They've been all over the business district known as Chicago's Loop. They've been out on the Magnificent Mile where the high-end shopping takes place. They had a sit-in out there. But something that has really affected the numbers out here is a cold November rain. There you see some of the people from the anonymous organization who have joined the protest here in Chicago. Now, there was a dust-up just a short time ago, about a half hour ago, and that is the demonstrators were trying to go west out of Chicago's Loop and looked like they were trying to gain access to the Kennedy Expressway. Well, that's where the police drew a line. As soon as they had the line, they didn't allow them through. You ended up with a conflict, a lot of pushing and shoving. What we hear from the demonstrators is that one person was arrested in that particular skirmish with the police. Now they keep walking, heading south out of the business district right now. Their demands really range to a number of different subjects. They want the resignation of Police Superintendent Gary McCarthy, claiming that it took too long. You heard one of them shouting Anita Alvarez. That's the state's attorney, saying that she sat on this case and sat on the video for too long. More than a year since the shooting. That's one of the things they want. They also, some of their demands range as far as setting up citizen panels to review the police action. But as they make the demands, as they make their presence known and try to be heard marching here in the streets of Chicago, they're covering a lot of ground, and the numbers are thinning, primarily due to a cold November rain. Sandra?
All right, Mike Tobin, live on the ground in Chicago for us. Thank you. And as the FBI warns local police departments across the United States to be on the lookout for a Paris-style copycat attack, the question now becomes, are cops stretched too thin in the wake of these protests? Joining us now is civil rights attorney Andel Brown and Jeff Warda, spokesman for the St. Louis Police Officers Association and author of Fergistan, The War on Police. Jeff, I'll start with you first. Do you expect police to change their behavior at all in the wake of these protests?
Well, yes, Sandra, of course they have to. This takes resources away from other law enforcement policing functions, and it takes a lot of troops to police a protest like this, particularly one like this in Chicago where it's a very fluid, mobile protest.
And would you say, is it fair to say that this is a tough time to be a police officer in this country?
What I would say is that it's a tough time for the community not to have transparency and accountability from all of its government, including police officers. When we see what we saw in this case, a video that showed clearly what happened, which was contradicted by a report that claims there was a lunge that obviously never happened, then it would be irresponsible for those members of the community not to speak up and speak out and demand transparency and accountability of all their government, including the police officers.
Jeff, we saw our reporter in Chicago, Mike Tobin, interview that very emotional protester on the ground there. The same protester that was live with Megyn Kelly last night during this hour, who stared down that police officer. That's an image that stays with a lot of people. You know, there's the obvious concern of lack of respect for our police in this country. Where do we go from here?
Well, I think we need to have the broader conversation that we've missed in Ferguson and Baltimore and now Chicago. As a result of the pitched violence that we've seen in the aftermath of these law enforcement interactions, we've taken this country in the wrong direction. We are more likely to have the next Michael Brown type incident than we were on August 9th of last year because tensions are so high and there is so much violence being aimed at the police, and they respond appropriately in those situations.
And as we know that we're hearing from activists, community leaders are speaking out. They're calling for more police investigations after we have all had a chance to see that video now. And the majority of people who watch that video have, there's a consensus that it wasn't good what happened that night. They want something from the mayor. They're threatening to shut down Black Friday on Friday, these protesters. What do they want? What do they want to hear from the mayor? What changes do they want to see made?
I think what they want is more accountability and more transparency. When we look at the case, the time that it took to arrive to this conclusion, it seemed as if it was a knee-jerk reaction to the fact that the public was going to see what happened. The fact that a year went by without the community that holds these people accountable, from the mayors to the district attorneys to the police chiefs, holds them accountable, did not know what happened. When the video is very clear as to what happened, the fact that it took this long to arrive at a conclusion that many view as just is part of the problem.
All right, well, it is a big problem. It's one that continues tonight, and those protesters still on the ground in Chicago. Thank you to you both for coming on with us tonight.